Hello and welcome to English Spark Official. I'm Zayden, joined as always by Alara.
Hey everyone! We're so excited about today's topic.
Imagine walking into your office, right? It's a Monday morning.
Oh, the classic Monday morning scenario.
Yeah, exactly. And you are holding this, scalding hot cup of coffee in one hand.
Right, a recipe for disaster already.
It really is. And your laptop is tucked awkwardly under your other arm, kind of slipping slightly.
I can literally feel the anxiety building.
Right. And suddenly, a coworker just tosses you this massive, disorganized stack of loose office files.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you're trying to balance all of it, right? You're shifting your weight, trying not to spill your coffee on the keyboard.
Just trying to physically survive the moment.
Exactly. And right at that exact moment of total physical limit, your boss walks up.
Of course they do.
Right. They walk up, shove a map in your face, and ask you for complicated turn-by-turn directions to a client's office across town.
Well, I mean, the physical tension in that scenario is just palpable. Your hands are entirely full.
Completely full.
Yeah, your center of gravity is off, and all your cognitive resources are being diverted just to keep that coffee from burning your hand.
Exactly.
So if someone asks you a complex spatial question in that state, the neurological response is, well, it's practically guaranteed.
You're going to drop something.
You aren't just going to give bad directions. You are going to physically drop the coffee or the files or the laptop. The system simply crashes.
The system crashes. And, that specific feeling, that moment of your brain completely freezing up because your mental hands are too full, that is the exact physiological reality of trying to speak a second language at work.
It really is a perfect analogy.
Right. When you are operating in a professional environment, using a language you are still, mastering, trying to remember complex grammar rules while simultaneously analyzing your manager's body language, it is literally the equivalent of carrying that heavy sack of files while trying to read a map.
Yeah, the brain's working memory just reaches capacity, and eventually a cognitive file gets dropped.
Exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive. If you have ever felt that suffocating panic of trying to sound perfectly fluent in a high-stakes professional setting, you are in the right place.
Absolutely.
Because today we are exploring this really highly specialized guide. It's called Cognitive Load Hacks, Reducing Mental Effort While Speaking.
And that's originally from English Spark Official, right?
Yes, exactly. And our mission today is to tailor these psychological insights specifically for an A2 English learning level.
Which is such a crucial group to focus on.
It is. We want to ground these concepts in the reality of the modern workplace so you can actually use them.
Well, that A2 level distinction is a really critical parameter for our analysis today.
How so?
I mean, we are not discussing absolute beginners who are just learning the alphabet, right?
Right.
But conversely, we aren't talking about C1 near-native speakers who can, debate abstract corporate philosophy over a noisy dinner.
Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. The A2 stage is often referred to in linguistics as the functional valley.
The functional valley. I like that term.
Yeah, because you know enough vocabulary to get your job done, right? To send the email, to give the basic update.
Sure.
But the mental tax of operating at that level for 8 hours a day is staggering. The translation processes in the brain are still manual. They aren't automatic yet.
Which means the fatigue is very real. You go home exhausted.
Completely drained.
So our objective today is to dissect specific, highly practical hacks from this guide to significantly lower that mental stress.
Yeah, we are moving away from traditional language learning advice here.
Because, let's be honest, when your boss is staring at you in a crowded conference room, telling you to go memorize more vocabulary flashcards does not help you survive the next 30 seconds.
Not at all. In fact, the central thesis of the source material acknowledges a rather uncomfortable truth for traditional language education.
Ooh, what is it?
Solving workplace communication stress isn't about acquiring more grammar. It's really about strategically managing the mental energy you currently possess.
Oh, wow. So it's not about learning more. It's about managing what you have.
Exactly. It's an exercise in resource optimization. You are learning to construct the most structurally sound building using the fewest possible bricks.
I love that. And building that structure starts with a foundational principle that the guide insists upon immediately.
Right.
It dictates, and this is a quote, start with simple vocabulary, and sentences should be clear, smooth, and easy to follow.
Which sounds so simple, right?
It does. On its face, that sounds like a platitude. It sounds almost like aggressively obvious.
Well, what's fascinating here is that it appears obvious in a vacuum, but executing simplicity under corporate pressure is an entirely different psychological challenge.
Oh, for sure.
The instinct in a professional environment, particularly when you feel vulnerable as a non-native speaker, is to overcompensate.
Yeah, we totally equate complexity with competence.
We really do.
That overcompensation instinct is just so deeply ingrained. Let's put this into a concrete workplace scenario for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about the daily morning stand-up meeting. You are on a video call, looking at a grid of like 20 faces.
Oh, the dreaded Zoom grid.
Exactly. And the department head goes around asking for status updates.
Huh.
When that virtual spotlight hits you, the social pressure to sound sophisticated is immense.
It's terrifying.
Right. You feel this overwhelming urge to use academic, multisyllabic jargon just to justify your seat at the table.
You want to sound smart.
Exactly. So your brain wants to formulate a sentence like, I have finalized the comprehensive analysis of the deliverables and will be disseminating the report shortly.
Oh, man. Let's look at what is happening in the prefrontal cortex when you try to construct that sentence in real time at an A2 proficiency level.
It's a lot, right?
It's a massive cognitive load. You are forcing the brain to bypass familiar neural pathways to search for high-tier vocabulary, like disseminating.
Which you probably never use in real life anyway.
Exactly. And simultaneously, the central executive of your working memory is checking if comprehensive analysis fits the syntactic structure. All while your motor cortex is attempting to plan the unfamiliar mouth movements required to pronounce deliverables without a heavy accent.
Oh my gosh, my brain is tired just hearing you describe it.
Right. The cognitive load spikes to dangerous levels. It often triggers a mild fight-or-flight response.
Wait, really? Fight or flight over a status update?
Absolutely. Your heart rate increases, cortisol is released, and your ability to think creatively just shuts down entirely.
Okay, I have to say, I experienced this exact physiological shutdown a few years ago.
Really? What happened?
So I was working on a project in Paris, and my French was hovering right around that A2 functional level, right?
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah, and I was in a meeting with some senior directors, and instead of just saying something simple like, I agree, let's do it, I tried to use this complex, hyper-idiomatic French phrase.
Oh, no. Where did you even get the phrase?
I had read it in a business journal the night before. I thought it was going to sound so brilliant.
And how did that go?
Well, I got halfway through the sentence, realized I had used the wrong verb tense, panicked, tried to correct it, and completely froze.
Ah, the classic freeze response.
I just sat there in silence for what felt like an eternity. The mental strain of trying to sound smart actually made me look completely incompetent.
Yeah, that phenomenon is a textbook example of catastrophic cognitive overload.
Catastrophic overload. That sounds about right.
The working memory simply dumped the entire task. The guide's directive to use simple vocabulary is designed to prevent that exact system failure.
So what should I have done instead? Or back to the video call example, what should you say?
Well, if in that video call stand-up meeting, you bypass the urge, say, disseminating the comprehensive deliverables.
Right.
And instead you just say, I finished the report, I will send it today, you fundamentally alter the neurological processing.
Because finished and send are deeply entrenched in the brain. They are like paved highways.
Yes, perfectly said.
Whereas disseminating is like a dirt path you have to hack through with a machete.
Precisely. By utilizing those paved high-frequency neural pathways, the language generation process requires minimal working memory.
You don't have to search the mental dictionary.
You avoid the search completely. And the crucial takeaway here isn't just that the sentence is easier to say.
What is it then?
It's what you can do with the cognitive resources you just freed up. When you aren't obsessing over vocabulary, you can actually pay attention to the room.
Oh, wow. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, you can maintain steady eye contact with the camera. You can modulate your tone of voice. You can read the facial expressions of your manager to see if they actually understand you.
Going back to our analogy, you are taking those heavy files out of your arms so you can actually read the map.
Exactly.
But this is where I imagine a lot of listeners are feeling some resistance right now.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right. If I am sitting in a boardroom where my native-speaking colleagues are casually tossing around words like synergistic paradigms and asynchronous optimization.
Classic corporate bingo words.
Exactly. If I chime in with, I finished the work, the fear is that I will sound like a child.
Mm-hmm.
The fear is that simplicity will actively harm my career progression. I mean, doesn't using simple words make us sound less professional at work?
That is the most pervasive anxiety among professional language learners, the fear of linguistic infantilization.
Linguistic infantilization. That perfectly captures the feeling.
However, the corporate reality rarely aligns with that fear. The source text addresses this directly by emphasizing the concept of gradually increasing difficulty.
Okay, so it's a progression.
Right. The strategy is not a lifetime commitment to elementary school vocabulary. It is a tactical entry point into the conversation.
Walk me through the psychology of that entry point. How does starting with basic A2 level vocabulary actually command respect in a high-level meeting?
Well, it really comes down to the listener's perception of friction.
Friction.
Yeah. When a manager evaluates an employee's communication, they're rarely grading the complexity of the adjectives.
Right, they aren't English teachers.
Exactly. They are evaluating the clarity of the thought and the confidence of the delivery.
Okay, that makes sense.
So a speaker who stumbles, uses a ton of filler words, pauses awkwardly, and displays visible anxiety while attempting complex jargon, that creates a high-friction environment for the listener.
It makes the listener uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Conversely, a speaker who delivers a simple, clear message with a smooth, unbroken cadence creates a low-friction environment.
Interesting.
Fluency, in the context of business execution, is defined by a lack of friction, not a surplus of vocabulary.
That completely reframes the entire concept of fluency. We naturally equate big words with intelligence.
Me too.
But in a fast-paced business environment, clarity is the ultimate marker of authority.
Absolutely.
If you can distill a complex project down to simple, undeniable facts, you control the narrative.
And the strategy of starting simple allows you to establish a rhythm. Once you deliver those first few clear sentences, you prove to your colleagues and to your own nervous system that you are in control of the information flow.
So you actually calm yourself down.
Yes. Your heart rate stabilizes. The threat response in the amygdala diminishes. And from that baseline of calm control, the guide suggests you can then incrementally scale up the complexity of your ideas if the situation demands it.
Okay, establishing that calm baseline through simplicity makes total sense for a standard update.
It really does.
But if we look at the reality of modern corporate structures, we can't always bypass complex language.
No, you can't avoid it forever.
Right. Every single industry has its proprietary jargon, and using it is often a mandatory signifier that you belong in that specific tribe.
The tribe vocabulary.
Exactly. Like if you work in supply chain logistics, you can't just call multimodal freight optimization the moving things around process.
Well, you could, but you probably wouldn't get promoted.
Exactly. Your brain is eventually going to be forced to process those massive complex terms. So what do we do then?
Well, the source material anticipates this exact collision between the need for simplicity and the demands of industry jargon.
Oh, good. What's the rule?
It provides a very stringent rule. Quote, any difficult word must be explained naturally in conversation. And it pairs that with the directive to avoid complex academic jargon without explanation.
The word that really stands out to me there is naturally.
Why is that?
Because the instinct of a language learner, when forced to use a massive industry term, is to act like a walking dictionary.
Oh, yeah, like they're reading from Wikipedia.
Exactly. Let's imagine you are an HR manager training a new international hire on a dense company policy, and you have to use the term indemnification.
A heavy legal term.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
I've seen people drop a word like that, realize the listener is confused, and then stop the conversation entirely to say, indemnification. That is a noun. It means the security against legal liability for one's actions.
Oh, yikes. Yeah, that approach completely shatters the pragmatic frame of the conversation.
It's so awkward.
It is. You have instantly shifted from a collaborative professional relationship into a rigid teacher-student dynamic.
Which nobody wants at work.
Right. Not only does this patronize the listener, but it also demands a massive surge of cognitive effort from the speaker.
Because you have to remember the dictionary definition.
Exactly. You are suddenly forced to retrieve abstract definitional language, which is incredibly taxing on your working memory.
It just feels clunky. It ruins the momentum. So how does this guide suggest we handle these unavoidable jargon bombs naturally?
Okay, let's use a tech example. Let's say you are explaining a new software architecture to a junior developer.
Okay.
And you are mandated to use the phrase legacy system integration.
That's a mouthful. So what's the hack?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The architectural hack here is the implementation of a bridge phrase.
A bridge phrase, like what?
Instead of pausing to define the term, you seamlessly attach an immediate simplified translation using a conversational connector.
Give me an example.
You deliver the required jargon, use a bridge phrase like which means, or in other words, or basically, and then instantly revert to your comfortable, low-load A2 vocabulary.
Okay, so in practice, you would say something like, this software handles legacy system integration, which basically means it helps the new computer talk to the old computers.
Perfect. Notice the contrast in that sentence.
Yeah, it's night and day.
Legacy system integration satisfies the corporate requirement, right? You sound like you belong.
Right.
But helps the new computer talk to the old computers, utilizes fundamental building blocks of the language.
And what's really cool about this mechanism is that it serves as a psychological safety net for the speaker.
Exactly. How did you feel when you said it?
Well, if I am terrified of mispronouncing integration, or I'm worried I'm using the term slightly out of context, it almost doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all.
Because the pressure to be perfectly precise is removed. I know I am immediately providing a foolproof, simple translation right next to it.
It drastically reduces the speaker's anxiety. You are fulfilling the sociolinguistic expectation of using the tribe's jargon, but you are not relying on that jargon to carry the actual weight of the communication.
That is so smart.
And furthermore, there is an alternative approach the guide implies, which is even more cognitively efficient than a direct translation.
Ooh, what's better than a translation?
Using a real-world example.
Oh, examples bypass so much mental processing. Give me a scenario of using an example to naturally explain a difficult term.
Consider the business idiom bottleneck.
It's a classic one.
It is, but it's a highly abstract concept for a non-native speaker.
Yeah.
If you try to define it conceptually, saying something like a point of congestion in a system that slows down the overall process, you are using more complex vocabulary to explain the complex vocabulary.
Right. Congestion, overall process. It's too much.
Instead, you state the problem and immediately anchor it to a concrete narrative.
Let's hear it.
You'd say, we have a bottleneck in production. For example, the design team finishes a graphic in 1 day, but the legal team takes 5 days to approve it. That is our bottleneck.
Oh, that is brilliant. The narrative just does the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
The listener's brain effortlessly grasps the story of the 1 day versus the 5 days and automatically assigns that meaning backward onto the word bottleneck.
Storytelling and episodic memory require significantly less cognitive exertion than abstract semantic processing.
You are communicating a highly complex workflow analysis, sounding entirely professional.
But relying solely on A2 level narrative structures to do it.
Okay, so we have established a solid defensive perimeter here.
We have.
We know to start with a simple foundation, and we know how to strategically deploy and explain mandatory jargon using bridge phrases and examples.
Right.
But let's escalate the pressure.
Oh, here we go.
What happens when the stress isn't coming from your own word choices, but from the speed and intensity of the environment?
That's the real test.
You're in a meeting, the conversation is moving at 100 miles an hour, multiple people are talking, and you can literally feel the cognitive load building up behind your eyes.
Your brain is just buzzing.
Yes. You need a mental break right at that exact second, but you obviously can't excuse yourself from the room. What do you do?
Well, when the environment becomes hostile to your working memory, the guide shifts from structural advice to real-time tactical maneuvers.
Tactical maneuvers, I like the sound of that.
It highlights 2 specific survival mechanisms: repetition of key phrases and the utilization of short pauses.
Let's contextualize this with a scenario that I think every professional has experienced.
Okay, paint the picture.
You are sitting at your desk, deeply focused on reading an email in English, which is already taking concentration.
Yes, task switching is hard.
Suddenly, your manager walks up behind you, interrupts your train of thought, and delivers a rapid-fire, multi-variable instruction.
It's the worst.
They say something like, hey, I need the Q3 financial report, but filter out the European branches because their data is incomplete, and make sure to CC the marketing director when you send the summary by 3 p.m. Got it.
The cognitive onslaught in that moment is extreme.
It's an ambush.
It really is. The brain is trying to task switch from the email, parse the heavy, accented, or rapid English, decode the specific instructions, analyze the conditions regarding the European branches, and encode the deadline.
All while formulating an appropriate professional response.
Exactly. It's way too much for the working memory to handle at once.
And the natural instinct of an overloaded language learner in that moment of ambush is to default to the path of least resistance.
Which is what?
You just nod vigorously, say, okay, yes, absolutely, no problem, and wait for the manager to walk away.
Oh yes, the fake nod.
Right. And the second they are gone, the panic sets in because you realize your brain didn't actually record half of what they said.
That instinct to blindly agree is a self-preservation tactic to escape the immediate social pressure. But it leads to massive operational failures.
Because you end up doing the work wrong.
Exactly. So the guide's first tactical hack repetition of key phrases is designed to arrest that panic cycle.
How does it work?
Instead of saying, okay, you actively mirror the core data points back to the speaker. You look at them and say, so, to confirm, Q3 report, no European data, send to marketing by 3 p.m.
Now, on the surface, that sounds like a standard active listening technique taught in every corporate management seminar.
It does.
But if our goal is to reduce cognitive load, isn't speaking more words counterproductive? I mean, doesn't formulating that summary require mental effort?
Well, this is where we look at the mechanics of the phonological loop.
Phonological loop.
Yeah, it's a component of working memory described by Alan Baddeley's model. It's essentially your brain's internal audio recorder.
Okay.
When you generate a novel, original sentence, your brain must access long-term memory, retrieve vocabulary, apply grammatical rules, and plan the motor functions. It is highly taxing.
Right.
However, when you merely echo or repeat phrases that were just spoken to you, you are largely bypassing that generation process. The words are still actively circling in your short-term phonological loop.
Oh, so you are literally just copy-pasting the auditory data you just received directly back to your vocal cords.
Precisely. You are utilizing a different, much lighter neural pathway. And the dual benefit here is profound.
Tell me about the dual benefit.
Outwardly, the repetition serves a critical business function. It confirms accuracy and projects meticulous professionalism to your manager.
You look like you are right on top of things.
Exactly. But inwardly, the psychological benefit is that you have bought yourself several seconds of zero cognitive load.
Buying time.
Yes. While your mouth is echoing the data, your brain's central executive is granted a micro rest to actually process the meaning of the task and file it appropriately.
It is an active buffer. You maintain control of the interaction without having to invent anything new.
Which is incredibly empowering.
It really is. Which leads perfectly into the second real-time survival hack, the strategic use of short pauses.
Pausing is an art form.
The guide is very deliberate about mentioning pauses. I actually think of this technique mechanically. Have you ever driven a car with a manual transmission?
I have, yeah. The coordination required between the feet and the hands can be quite complex for a beginner.
Exactly. When you are accelerating and you need to shift from second gear into third gear, you can't just forcefully jam the stick shift into the new slot.
No, the gears are spinning at different speeds.
Right. The transmission will grind and eventually brake. You have to press the clutch pedal down. Pressing the clutch physically disconnects the engine's power from the transmission for a split second.
And the car's forward momentum continues.
Yes. The momentum continues, but the engine is briefly free, allowing you to smoothly glide the stick into the next gear before releasing the clutch.
That is a phenomenal mechanical analogy for conversational processing.
Thanks. To me, taking a deliberate short pause in a high-stress English conversation is the exact cognitive equivalent of hitting the clutch. Well, when you are speaking and your brain suddenly realizes, I don't know the vocabulary word for this, or I have backed myself into a grammatical corner and the sentence structure is collapsing, the worst thing you can do is keep your foot on the gas.
Right. You just make it worse.
Exactly. If you just keep making noise, you start stuttering, using filler words like, or like, and the sentence grinds to a painful halt.
It's agonizing to watch and even worse to experience.
You have to hit the cognitive clutch. You stop speaking. You take a deliberate 2-second pause. You disconnect your mouth from the social pressure.
Giving your brain that isolated moment to find the right gear.
Exactly. You structure the next thought and then smoothly re-engage.
The barrier to utilizing the clutch, however, is deeply cultural.
Really? How is pausing cultural?
Well, in many fast-paced corporate cultures, particularly in Western business environments, there is a phenomenon known as horror vacui.
Horror vacui. The fear of empty space.
Exactly, the fear of empty space. We are conditioned to view silence during a presentation or a meeting as a symptom of weakness, unpreparedness, or lack of fluency.
Oh, totally. If there's dead air, someone usually jumps in to fill it.
Right. We feel an overwhelming compulsion to fill every microsecond of airtime with vocalization.
We equate silence with failure. But if you analyze truly masterful communicators like CEOs delivering keynote speeches, expert negotiators, they do the exact opposite.
They do. They weaponize silence.
They really do.
Strategic pausing is universally recognized in communication psychology as a marker of high status and authority.
Really. High status.
Absolutely. When a speaker pauses, the audience intuitively assumes the speaker is carefully weighing a profound thought.
They don't assume you forgot a word.
No, not at all. For the language learner, embracing this reality is incredibly liberating. When you lose your train of thought and the panic flares up, your internal clock distorts time.
Oh, time slows down so much.
A 2-second pause feels like 2 hours of agonizing silence to you. But to the listener, it simply looks like a thoughtful professional taking a breath before delivering an important point.
It is about giving yourself permission to stop.
Yes.
If you combine these two tactics, echoing the manager's instruction to buy processing time, and then taking a confident short pause to formulate your response, you are essentially constructing a massive mental runway for yourself.
All while projecting complete control over the interaction.
So powerful. But these real-time tactics are vital, right? But relying solely on emergency maneuvers is exhausting.
You can't live in emergency mode forever.
You really can't. Which is why the final section of the source guide transitions away from in-the-moment survival and focuses entirely on pre-conversation preparation.
Which is where the real long-term growth happens.
Exactly. It introduces a specific architecture for practice. Let's unpack these practice hacks.
Okay.
The guide explicitly mandates 3 features: shadowing practice, the use of listening focus cues, and the implementation of small interactive questions.
3 solid pillars.
Let's start with shadowing, because the guide defines it simply as repeat after me. I've seen shadowing discussed in polyglot communities online, but how does this specific technique reduce the cognitive load for a professional preparing for a stressful workday?
To understand the efficacy of shadowing, we must first dispel the illusion that speaking a language is purely an intellectual exercise happening in the prefrontal cortex.
It's not just a mental math problem.
No, spoken language is profoundly physical. It is a highly coordinated motor function. The English language, for instance, requires distinct tongue placements, specific lip rounding, and airflow patterns that may not exist in a learner's native phonetic inventory.
The physical fatigue is something nobody warned you about. After speaking a foreign language for a few hours, my jaw literally aches. The muscles get tired.
Because you are engaging muscles in unfamiliar patterns. When you are stressed in a meeting, recalling the vocabulary is only half the cognitive battle.
What's the other half?
The motor cortex is simultaneously working overtime, sending complex signals to your vocal tract to produce those unfamiliar English foams accurately so you are actually understood.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. So shadowing is designed to automate that physical process. It involves taking an audio clip of a native or highly proficient speaker and loudly repeating their sentences simultaneously or immediately after them.
Trying to mimic them exactly.
Yes, attempting to perfectly mirror their rhythm, intonation, and stress patterns.
So unlike studying a grammar textbook, you are actively engaging the physical mechanics of speech.
You are building procedural memory.
Procedural memory, like riding a bike.
Exactly. Procedural memory is the same implicit memory system that allows you to ride a bicycle or type on a keyboard without looking at your hands.
Okay, that makes sense.
When you shadow high-frequency workplace phrases repeatedly, phrases like, "Thanks for bringing this to my attention," or "Let's table this discussion until next week," or "Could you clarify that data point?" You forge thick neurological pathways between the language centers of the brain and the motor cortex.
The mouth simply learns the dance.
It does.
Let's translate this into a morning routine. Imagine you are preparing for a critical, high-stakes client phone call. You have your notes drafted.
Okay.
The traditional approach is to sit silently at your desk, reading over your bullet points, trying to memorize the content.
Which doesn't help the motor cortex at all.
Exactly. The shadowing approach suggests something radically different.
The shadowing approach dictates that you take the first 3 sentences of your opening greeting, go to an empty conference room, or sit in your car before you enter the building, and physically speak those sentences out loud over and over again.
Locking in the intonation.
Locking it in physically.
The psychological advantage of that is massive. When that client call actually begins, the adrenaline is going to flood your system. Your cognitive load will instantly spike.
It always does at the start of a call.
But Because you have built procedural muscle memory for your opening lines, producing those first 30 seconds of speech requires virtually zero working memory.
You aren't building sentences. You are just hitting play on a pre-recorded physical action.
I love that. Hitting play.
That initial autopilot phase acts as a cognitive shock absorber. The first minute of any professional interaction is invariably the period of highest anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. Once you get past the first minute, it usually gets easier.
Right. By automating the opening, you allow your nervous system time to acclimate to the social pressure. Your heart rate settles down before you have to engage in the heavy lifting of spontaneous, unscripted conversation.
Shadowing handles the physical preparation brilliantly, but the guide also lists two other preparatory concepts.
Yes, the focus cues and interactive questions.
Right. Listening focus cues, which it describes as phrases like listen carefully and small interactive questions. Now, I understand how automating my own speech helps me, but how do these specific cues and questions lower my stress when I am actively leading a discussion?
Well, this raises an important question about how we view corporate communication. These two techniques require a paradigm shift.
A shift in what way?
Inexperienced speakers, particularly non-native speakers, feeling the pressure to perform, often treat communication as a monologue.
They feel like they have to do all the talking?
They feel the entire burden of the interaction rests on their shoulders. But a conversation, fundamentally, is a collaborative, shared activity governed by rules of turn-taking.
Okay.
These cues and questions are mechanisms to strategically manipulate that turn-taking to your advantage.
Let's dissect the listening focus cue. If I am giving a project update to a group, and I insert a phrase like, now listen carefully to this next part because it alters our Q4 timeline, what is that phrase actually accomplishing cognitively?
It operates on two distinct levels. Externally, it acts as a neurological highlighter for your audience.
A neurological highlighter. I like that.
It engages the reticular activating system in the listener's brains, essentially snapping them to attention and ensuring your critical data point is absorbed.
Wait, the reticular what?
The reticular activating system. It's the part of the brain that filters out unnecessary noise and focuses on what's flagged as important.
Oh, got it. So you're flagging it for them.
Exactly. But internally, for the speaker, the cue functions as a structural pivot.
A pivot.
By inserting that specific pre-practiced phrase, listen carefully to this, you create an artificial boundary in your own speech. It gives your central executive a 1-second window to organize the complex information that is about to follow.
It's like taking a deep breath and clearing the clutter off your mental desk right before you lay down the most important document. You are framing the thought for yourself as much as for them.
Exactly. You are resetting your own system. And that concept of structural pacing leads directly into the final and perhaps most powerful hack in the entire guide.
The small interactive questions.
The utilization of small interactive questions.
Give me the context for these. What kind of questions are we talking about here?
We are talking about micro-inquiries appended to the end of a thought or explanation. Phrases like, does that make sense so far? Or, are we all on the same page regarding the timeline? Or, how does that approach look from your department's perspective?
You know, I hear managers use those constantly, but I always assumed it was just a polite corporate affectation, like a way to build consensus. How does that act as a cognitive load hack for a language learner?
To understand the power of the interactive question, we need another analogy.
Bring it on.
Imagine a conversation as a physical game of catch. But instead of a baseball, you are tossing a heavy medicine ball.
Okay, a heavy medicine ball. Got it.
When you are the one speaking, explaining a new process, or delivering a report, you are holding the heavy medicine ball. Your brain is doing all the heavy lifting, retrieving vocabulary, managing grammar, suppressing native language interference.
All the heavy lifting.
Right. If you deliver a continuous 5-minute monologue, you are holding that weight the entire time. Your cognitive load steadily climbs, fatigue sets in, and the probability of a linguistic error skyrockets.
The muscles give out.
Precisely. But the exact moment you deploy a small interactive question like, how does that timeline look to you? The physics of the interaction change.
You throw the ball?
You physically throw the heavy medicine ball to the listener.
Oh, wow. The burden of processing instantly shifts.
It shifts entirely. Social convention dictates that the listener must now respond. They must retrieve vocabulary, process the concepts, and formulate an answer.
And while they are doing that?
While they're doing that heavy lifting, your cognitive load drops to absolute zero. You are granted a 10, perhaps 20-second vacation from language generation.
You can physically relax your jaw. You can take a deep breath. You can mentally preview your next talking point, all while maintaining the appearance of a highly engaging, collaborative leader.
Exactly. You are orchestrating the flow of the interaction to provide yourself with strategic rest periods.
That is just brilliant.
It transforms the psychology of the language learner from a state of passive endurance, hoping you survive the presentation without making a mistake, into a state of active control. You are the architect of the conversation's pacing.
That is a profound realization. You don't have to be a victim of the conversation's speed. You can dictate the rhythm.
You are in charge.
We have unpacked an incredible amount of psychological and practical architecture today. Let's synthesize everything we've pulled from this cognitive load hacks guide.
A quick recap is always good.
Our foundational mission was to discover how an A2 level English speaker can survive and thrive in a high-pressure workplace. First, we established that you must dismantle the urge to sound like an academic.
Right, leave the big words alone.
You built a low-friction environment by utilizing simple, clear sentences, recognizing that clarity, not complexity, is the true currency of corporate intelligence.
Second, we addressed the unavoidable reality of industry jargon. We learned that stopping to define a complex term creates catastrophic cognitive strain.
It halts everything.
Instead, you integrate the jargon naturally, using bridge phrases or narrative examples, allowing simple stories to carry the weight of complex concepts.
Third, we explored the emergency mechanisms for when the mental RAM is full. When confronted with rapid-fire instructions, you utilize the phonological loop by echoing key data points back, buying yourself processing time.
And when you feel the sentence collapsing,
You hit the cognitive clutch. You utilize strategic, confident pauses to reset the system without grinding the gears with filler words.
finally, we examine the preparatory architecture. We discussed how shadowing builds physical procedural memory in the motor cortex, automating your foundational phrases.
Hitting play on the pre-recorded track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we revealed how listening cues and small interactive questions allow you to pass the heavy medicine ball to your audience, orchestrating moments of absolute cognitive rest while maintaining control of the room.
It is a comprehensive toolkit for survival and efficiency. The overarching theme here isn't about learning more English. It is about outsmarting the limitations of the human brain.
And that requires a fundamental shift in how professionals view language itself. In the academic world, language is a subject to be mastered, tested, and graded for grammatical perfection.
Right.
But in the globalized corporate arena, language is merely a utility. It is a conduit for collaboration. Your colleagues are not sitting in the boardroom with a red pen waiting to dock points for an incorrect preposition.
They really aren't.
They simply want to understand the logistics of the project so they can execute their own tasks. A speaker who manages their cognitive load, remains calm, and communicates simple concepts clearly is infinitely more valuable to a company than a speaker who exhausts themselves trying to construct flawless, highly complex prose.
The ultimate goal is connection, not perfection.
Well said.
Which leads me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. Throughout our entire discussion, we have been deconstructing a very specific, traditional definition of what it means to be fluent.
We have.
We are culturally conditioned to believe that fluency is additive. We think fluency means speaking at a blistering speed, possessing an encyclopedic internal dictionary, and never hesitating for a fraction of a second.
The impossible standard.
Right. But after examining the neuroscience of stress and exploring these hacks for managing cognitive load, I think we have to ask a different question. What if true fluency isn't about the capacity to do more? What if true fluency is the quiet confidence of giving your brain permission to do less? What if mastery is simply learning how to use the fewest, simplest tools available to build the strongest possible bridge to the person sitting across the table?
Embracing simplicity in a complex world requires a remarkable amount of courage.
It truly does.
Yeah.
Because when the pressure is on, you don't need to juggle a scalding coffee, a precarious laptop, and a massive stack of heavy files just to help someone read a map.
You're just going to spill the coffee.
Exactly. The smartest, most effective thing you can do is simply put the files down, point a finger at the destination, and confidently say, "It's right over there."